Hello, my name is Jason White and I'm with the Coalition of Active Citizens. Today our topic is usury or lending. We are going to discuss this topic in the light of reason and biblical revelation. And so let's get started because we do have quite a bit of material to cover. Today we are taking a mere survey. If you have a Bible, please turn to Jeremiah 15:10. There's a simple passage here that says, "Woe is me, my mother, that you bore me to be a man of strife and a man of contention to the whole earth. I have neither loaned nor have men loaned to me, yet everyone curses me." So this is pulled out of context. We're not going to read every bit of context, scripture in context. All we're trying to do here is to give you a bare understanding that the scriptures have something to say about how we treat each other and our lending system. So again, Jeremiah 15:10, this passage is in principle that the practice of loaning to others and taking loans can cause strife and contention. And even though in this case the speaker is expressing irony here. If you go to Ezekiel 18:7 and even Ezekiel 18:13, 18:16, the New International Version says, "He does not oppress anyone or require a pledge for a loan. He does not commit robbery but gives his food to the hungry and provides clothing for the naked." Ezekiel 18:13 says, "And has charged interest or percentage of increase on what he has loaned, and supposed compassion. Shall he then live? He shall not live. He has done all these abominations. He shall surely die. His blood shall be upon him." There's another reference, Ezekiel 33:15. But if you read all these, there's a definition of pledge I'd like to share. It's a condition of being given or held in security for a contract, a token of earnest. So you have to know what a pledge means when you read these scriptures. So I'm observing that at this point we have not heard in scripture to not loan. Apparently problems arise in the application of loaning practices, and it is the how loans are made, to whom they are made, under what conditions. So there's also in the Amplified it's communicated to us there's supposed compassion. What this says to me is that no one in business is doing you a favor by doing business that enslaves you. So the definition of abomination you can look up for yourself, but the above scriptures advocates loaning that is not oppressive. Interestingly enough, Amplified notes in supposed compassion says that we are baiting others into loans when it will end up in slavery or oppression for the debtee. It is likened unto robbery or theft, especially if the lender creates a situation that ends up in the debtee losing his collateral. Just as an observation, not adhering apparently to good lending practices is likened to stealing, especially when collateral is involved. Once the debt is paid for, the creditor should relinquish his claim and hold on collateral. In other words, it is sin to withhold the pledge. Continue on to Exodus 22, verse 25. The Amplified says, "If you lend money to any of my people with you who is poor, you shall not be to him as a creditor, neither shall you require interest from him." So this passage talks about when lending to the poor, another charge by God at this time to not charge interest. Again, it lays another burden upon the borrower that is not fair if they're going to struggle to pay the principal loan off in the first place. That seems pretty reasonable when you think about it. God says his people in the above verses. This meant the Jew at this time. But let's put this in perspective. God was the ruler and the king of his people and expressed himself in this manner. He was the governor and authority. So you could say that the government said not to oppress your countrymen who are already struggling. So if you can go to Leviticus 25:37, you can look at the King James Version, New International Version, Amplified Bible. Says, you should not give him your money at interest, nor lend him food at a profit. Again, taking advantage of the poor is wrong here. Baiting them into a loan at interest and food at profit because of desperation is wrong, because it is oppressive. Deuteronomy 15:2, Deuteronomy 15:6, you can read these on your own, talks about lending. Take the Amplified Bible, Deuteronomy 15:6. When the Lord your God blesses you as he has promised you, then you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. And you shall rule over many nations, but they shall not rule over you. Interesting enough, governmental policy where God is the authority. These passages are about what we call bonds in America. But they shall not reign over thee. The principle here is not allowing your country to become subservient to foreign powers. Lending is a one-way street. If you want to maintain your integrity and strength as a nation, could it be that our American sovereignty and ability to negotiate and influence other countries is actually compromised because of disregarding this principle? You tell me. You have the opportunity to tell me. Deuteronomy 15:8. But you shall open your hands wide to him, and shall surely lend him sufficient for his need and whatever he lacks. There's some exhortation to lend. I'm not reading this in context, but apparently there's a time to lend. But again, we're looking at the hows and whys and whos of lending. Deuteronomy 23:19. Amplified Bible says, you shall not lend on interest to your brother. Interest on money, on victuals, on anything that is lent for interest. Your brother here, again, is your countryman. The Jew, in that case, our countrymen today in America, other Americans, even if we don't take this literally, should we at least see the wisdom in carefully lending to your countrymen, your neighbor? Again, lending can be oppressive, unjust, and irresponsible. You can look at the Amplified Bible of Deuteronomy 23:20. You may lend on interest to a foreigner, but to your brother you shall not lend on interest, that the Lord your God may bless you in all that you undertake in the land to which you go to possess it. Again, lending to foreign entities or investors on interest, and not so much to your own countrymen. Putting your folks in your own country above the interests of foreign investors strengthens your country.